Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Watkins Glen International, where today we're preparing for our 18th race of the season by figuring out the 6 drivers that will make up the 42 car roster before we set our starting lineup for the Cheez-It 355 here at the Glen. As always, I'm Elijah Leonard here with you to bring the action here for today's festivities. And also on top of that, as you notice, we're live on the WRLA YouTube channel. This is actually the first time in about 5 years, or really, I should probably say 3, since we've been live on this YouTube channel. Really for anything, but now we're here for WRLA action as far as the qualifying sessions go, and this is where the WRLA content will be moved over to. All 2025 races that are over on the main 11 YouTube channel, those will get moved over to this channel just a little bit before we get ready for our season finale, or before our championship race at the Phoenix. No, not Phoenix, sorry. Homestead, Miami. Phoenix is the penultimate race for the points paying season. And then obviously we have our 2 races that we'll be making up on the week of Veterans Day. November 11th, we'll be running the Coca-Cola 600. And then on the 15th of November, we'll be running Pocono as well. So those will be the final 2 overall races to make up the 2023 schedule. First car to start up their lap time, that would be Kyler Sustry here in this number 16. You'll see Ryan Gundillo making his way out on the racetrack. He just came off of pit road to get up to speed for his run. But ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a pretty busy time here in the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series. I mean, especially, since we are winding down here on the 2025 season, and obviously this is the furthest that we've ever gone with any WRLA season since 2020. We managed to make it to the halfway mark of that year, and then we just randomly shut down because of obviously burnout from recording and all that. So we're back, obviously. We've been back, well, obviously since the last season, which was 2023, which only ran 8 races, but here we are preparing for race number 18 here at the Watkins Glen International. The first time that we've been here at Watkins Glen since the inaugural season in 2017. But it's at a pretty interesting time in the year, of course, because we are nearing the championship race at the Homestead Miami Speedway, which is going to be on November 1st. So we are just less than 1 month away from the championship finale, the points paying finale, if you will, for race 21 on the season. And again, I must remind everybody, the only reason why Charlotte and Pocono are after the championship race is because, number one, there was some stuff that happened behind the scenes, and obviously I was not in a pretty good state mentally, so I had to take a step back from content creation and streaming just to focus on my mental health. But also, number 2, I was not gonna let those races kind of just, be kind of just left out on the schedule. I wanted to make sure that those races were made up, and that you guys still got to see some really good action at places like Pocono and like Charlotte. So that's why we're making up these races. That's why we're making up those 2 races at the end of the season to obviously to make up that 23 race schedule. 5 minutes have already passed. I've been kind of rambling on here, but Josiah Munsell on the top of the board with a minute 8.245. Now that's Nikki Fox taking over that spot with a minute 8.184. So that kicks Munsell back to second. Then it's Chase McClure third with a 246. Ajax Fitzgerald with a 277. A 319 for Kyler Sustrai, and Jordan Sumner currently holds on to that final transfer spot to make up the 42-car field for tonight's race here at Watkins Glen. Hard to believe, after tonight, there'll be 3 races left on the Pepsi Cup Series points paying schedule. Ryan Gundillo, as we're gonna hold that thought for a second, Ryan Gundillo just shot straight up to the top for a couple seconds, but now it's Michael DeFeo to the top of the board with a minute 8.074. We have not seen DeFeo in a Pepsi Cup Series race in a little while this year. Would be really awesome to see the hometown hero make his first Pepsi Cup race in, well, a few months, actually. I'd say a few weeks. But it has been a little while since we've seen Michael DeFeo in a Pepsi Cup Series race. I mean, you think about earlier in the year, he brought some really fast hot rods to the racetrack and managed to get into quite a few of these races. But obviously, as we've progressed on a little bit later on into the year, that story has sort of changed just a little bit. But coming in towards the end of the season, it is going to be pretty interesting to see if DeFeo is going to be able to make these final few races here for the 2025 season. But going back to what we've been talking about as far as, you know, the championship battle that is currently brewing up here. Noah Clifton, of course, wound up winning a couple weeks ago at Atlanta back in September. And of course, you know, if you would have had to been there in order to keep track of everything that had been going on in Atlanta, because it had absolutely been just nothing but a number of championship implications left and right. Of course, you know, you had Russell Blaze, who got taken out super late in the going after making contact with Bobby Maguire. I know he would definitely be pretty frustrated with that. Probably still as frustrated about it to this day. So a fire might have been lit underneath them. That's for sure. Kyle Craven, of course, he got involved in a wreck about 75-ish laps into the race. And then earlier in the going, well, I mean, in the process of Kyle Craven's wreck, Terry Walker managed to get involved in some capacity that ultimately just took him out of the race. But all 3 of our top 3 contenders in the point standings managed to get eliminated from contention to win at Atlanta a couple weeks ago. And if we go back and look at the points, not much has really changed, I'd really say. But Terry Walker still holds on to that points lead, just barely. And I would have thought Emily Anderson would have had it. Like I said, I personally would have thought Emily Anderson would have had that points lead secured and in the bag, but I was wrong. So Walker, Craven, and Blaze secured just enough points to keep their top 5 spots. But Skylar Taylor has also been on a tear, you know, currently tied with Russell Blaze with 381 points to their name. But currently, due to Google Sheet physics, Taylor breaks that tie. But the top 4 out of the 5 top 5 drivers, of course, are rookies. But it's actually been very awesome to see that the rookies have, you know, been absolutely thriving this season. I mean, you know, you take a look at, I mean, Fitzy led a good portion of the points earlier in the season. Then it was Terry Walker. It still is Terry Walker. Then you have Russell Blaze coming out of the woodworks, finally getting a win in Nashville back in June or July. Emily Anderson making history by getting the 2 wins that made her the most winningest driver in WRLA history, passing Emmanuel Hartnett. So, I mean, there's been a lot of things that have happened in this 2025 season, and I so cannot wait for 2026 to come around, because I feel like that's going to be an even bigger year. And we're really hoping that you guys are just as excited about the 2026 season as we are. Coming up on 5 minutes to go here, Travis Crampton finds himself inside of the top 6. Currently third with a minute 8, 136. Janiah Hill for the McGuire Motorsports entry finds herself 5th on the board. So you see Bobby McGuire here in this number 3 getting some tire service done to his car. Currently 12th on the board with a minute 8, 303. He had some pretty high hopes of making Watkins Glen when we interviewed him a couple weeks ago post-race at Atlanta, but doesn't look like he's going to be making this race here today unless if he's able to make the right adjustments on this car so that way he can get the speed that he's been needing, that he's looking for out of that machine. I don't think we're going to see 2 McGuire Motorsports cars in the field for tonight's race here at Watkins Glen. But Janiah Hill is in pretty good shape to transfer on into tonight's race, along with, you know, obviously Nicky Fox, Michael DeFeo, Crampton, Gondillo, and as well as Martin Nixon. Nixon barely holding on by 1/1000th of a second over Joshua Cornish, who is on the outside looking in. Then Josiah Munsell with a 245, McClure with a 246, Kyler Sustry with a 266, Ajax Fitzgerald with a 277. We touched on McGuire a little bit ago with a 303, a 320 for Jordan Sumner, and a 340 for Ray Atikian in the number 45. Just also want to let anybody know that is currently watching this live stream here on the WRLA YouTube channel. If you manage to go and go onto the channel, you'll notice that there are signups for the 2025 Pumpkin 250, which will be taking place on the 28th of October. It's going to be a pretty big special event. We've been doing this since 2017. Obviously, the 2019 race, we didn't round up doing that one. I don't think we did 2022 either, but missed a couple of years, but we've been pretty but for the most part, I'd say we've been pretty consistent. And if you guys want to go ahead and go sign up for that race, we most certainly appreciate it. Kyler Sustry coming out of nowhere with a minute 8:205. That's going to be enough to put him into the show by at least 21/1000ths of a second. He's got to make sure that he can hold on to this for another 2 minutes. We got Bobby McGuire making his way back out on track, fresh tires and all. So let's see if McGuire might have something in the tank here as we're closing in. Actually, hold up. Sustry moved to 3rd, so that puts Janiah Hill on the bubble spot. The only way I could plausibly see both McGuire Motorsports cars making it in, obviously, is if Hill manages to lay down a faster lap time, and if McGuire can put down a fast enough lap to get himself inside of the top 6. Probably might not be able to do it here within these next 90 seconds, but with that added time, it should be enough. Just barely enough. Climbing through the gears, heading through the S's, now on the back straightaway, and getting ready to head down to the bus stop. Now that bus stop was added probably about a year or two after, well, 1990, I think it was 90 or 91. Obviously that that part of the back straightaway was definitely a little bit of a safety concern, and if you want to go do your research on that one, please do feel free. But that bus stop recently was just added, of course. Well, not recently, but it was added just shortly after some other events that took place that in hopes of obviously just safety concerns and also just add a little bit more excitement to the racetrack, I say, if you will. Minute 7 has been added, so that way these drivers can have enough time to put down one more lap. And hope and pray that it's fast enough to get him into the show. Here's a Tikian in the number 45. He raced this past weekend at Atlanta. He actually was involved in that crash with Kyle Craven, Bruno Diacomo, as well as Eric Monaco, and even points leader Terry Walker. I do believe a Tikian managed to go on to continue in the race, whereas obviously Terry Walker did not, and I don't believe Kyle Craven was able to continue on either. But let's see exactly what the times are going to look like. And it does not look like McGuire's going to be able to get any better than a minute 8:3:03. So he will have to sit out this weekend and get ready for Ricky Raceway in 2 weeks on October 18th. So that means your top 6 will look like this. Nikki Fox will transfer on along with Michael DeFeo, Kyler Sustry, the 61 of Travis Crampton, Ryan Gundillo, and Janiah Hill in the number 7 will just barely hold on to that final transfer spot to get into the Cheez-It 355 here at the Watkins Glen International. And as for everybody else from 7th on down, well, you're going to see them right here. Josiah Munsell is going to miss out along with Martin Nixon, Joshua Cornish, Chase McClure, Ajax Fitzgerald, Bobby McGuire, Jordan Sumner, Ray Atikin. They're all going to be missing out on this one. So they will have to watch this race from the sidelines and get ready for Ricky Raceway. Can you believe that, guys? We're returning to Ricky Raceway for the first time since the inaugural year of 2017. That's another race I can't wait for. That one's going to be an absolute barn burner, if anything. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, before we get there, we got to focus on this weekend's festivities here at Watkins Glen. Speaking of, now that the 42 car field is set, qualifying for the Cheez-It 355 will be coming up very shortly.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And welcome back, ladies. All right, we do apologize for that. Apparently, I decided not to unmute my mic through OBS. But anyways, we're back here for qualifying here at Watkins Glen International. I guess I got to redo the whole script over because apparently I didn't unmute myself on OBS. But qualifying here at Watkins Glen. The 42 car field has officially been set, so now it's time to figure out the starting lineup. 2 rounds. The top 12 in the the top 12 fastest drivers will move on to the final round to decide who will win the pole. That's what I said. So apparently I did not unmute myself, and I thought I did. My bad. But anyways, there's Terry Walker in the number 48, carrying the Ally colors for this weekend. You also got Emily Anderson in the Mountain Dew scheme. So 10 minutes. It's going to be, I would say it's going to be pretty interesting as to, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. Completely lost my train of thought. But no, it's definitely, I don't even know what to say, but it's definitely going to be pretty interesting to see what's going to happen here for tonight's race. I mean, I like I said, I don't even know. Like I said, I completely lost my train of thought. But this race should be pretty interesting nonetheless. I mean, obviously, the pit strategies are going to be a little bit different. And I think for a lot of what's going to be happening here at the Glen, if you get a really good starting position, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have yourself a very good day, nonetheless. I mean, unless if you have, some pretty good strategy calls, unless if you have the good track position. So that's what usually all these road course races have been about. Track position and pit strategy. As if you can manage to master both, then you're going to have yourself a really good day at road courses like Watkins Glen, for instance. NS Racing has been on a tear these last couple of weeks. I mean, obviously, if you missed it a couple weeks ago, Noah Clifton managed to finally get his first win of the season at the Atlanta Motor Speedway just a couple weeks ago. Managed to put an NS Racing car in victory lane, finally, after as much adversity as they had faced all year. they finally managed to put one of their cars in victory lane with Noah Clifton. Another guy that has been performing pretty well as of late is Nathan Stapleton in the 97. He just went to the top of the board, by the way, with a minute 5.851. Managed to also take home a top 5 finishing position, or top 10 finishing position. So that's the best I've seen Nathan Stapleton perform all year. So fingers crossed he can carry that momentum into 2026. Of course, NS Racing going to be sporting some new looks heading into that year. We honestly are pretty excited and can't wait to see what that year is going to hold. Val Moscow to the top of the board with a minute 5.778. Was something else I had meant to say, but I can't remember. It's the thought's practically gone because apparently I did not unmute myself through OBS. But anyways, the action. I mean, like I said, I don't even know what to say. But we're less than 5 minutes to go here in this session. Here's Wyatt Walker in this number 19 trailing his dad, Terry, still, which is shocking to me that he still is barely holding on to the points lead. Just that he managed, also on top of that, just managed to get enough points to just barely hold on. I honestly thought it would have been Emily Anderson that would have grabbed the points lead away, just would have yoinked it away. But as I mentioned during Go or Go Homer qualifying, I was wrong on that prediction by a landslide. But Anderson, after that performance a couple weeks ago in Atlanta, managed to pull just a little bit closer to that championship fight that now involves 4 other drivers, of course. I mean, I would definitely say there's a lot more than that because logically speaking, if you really did the math, I'd say the drivers that probably have the best possible, obviously the top 4, you know, Terry Walker, Kyle Craven, Skylar Taylor, Russell Blaze, they're all on top of each other points wise. Emily Anderson is in this fight. Stephen Colon, I'd say, would be in this battle as well. Same for Zachary Fitzwater, he's not out of this. Ryan Little, I'd say, would be in a good spot. Roberto Crown Jr. and Reagan Whitlock, I would definitely say those two are the long shots, especially for Reagan Whitlock. Reagan Whitlock compared to Russell Blaze, that is about, if I did my math correctly, that is about a 72, no, not a 72 point difference. I'd say 76 point difference between Whitlock and as well as Terry Walker. I'd say the only way that Whitlock would be in contention for the championship, I'd say the only way would definitely have to be if Whitlock managed to pick up as many bonus points as she possibly can. If she wins a race, then I think, logically speaking, that would be the only other way I would see Reagan Whitlock pulling herself into championship contention. But I'd say probably about the top 6 or 7. By the way, hashtag dumbest joke ever. Those 6 or 7 drivers, I think, would be in that championship fight, though. That would definitely be the case. Moscow still holding on to the top of the board, by the way, with that 778. Russell Blaze trying to recover, of course, from kind of an abysmal weekend at Atlanta a couple weeks ago. But nonetheless, I mean, I'd definitely say that that's kind of lingered with him for the last couple of weeks, but he is good to go, of course, and right now sitting 3rd on the board with a minute 5.834, so in a very good position to move on into the final round. Driver holding onto the final transfer spot right now by 3/1000ths of a second. That would be Alexander Rowe. That would be Alexander Rowe in the number 34. Wyatt Walker currently on the outside looking in, along with Nia Steidel with a 977. So there's Walker with 20 seconds to go. Currently, and I'll say this, even if he doesn't make it to the final round, Wyatt's going to have himself a pretty good starting spot. I'd also say the same thing for Nia Steidel in the number 6. There she is right there. DeFeo, Jerry Rose, Valkyrie Atiki, and those drivers I think would be in a pretty good spot to at least get some good starting positions. But I'd say for the championship contenders like Blaze and even Kyle Craven, for instance, they're going to be moving on to the final round. And where's points leader Terry Walker, you ask? Currently sitting 28th with a minute 6:033. So definitely not in a good position there. And with the way things are looking with qualifying ending here very shortly, that's where he's going to be starting. 29th, actually, as he dropped a position. Kyle Craven actually gets bumped to the bubble spot, and I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of smoke. Actually, what in the world happened here? That's Noah Clifton. What in the world happened to him? There's a car smoking, and that's Kyler Sustry. Okay, that's pretty interesting, but qualifying is over, at least for round 1. Moscow, Perez, careful here. Russell Blaze, Nathan Stapleton, Noah Clifton, Wayne Lopez, Eric Monaco, Roberto Crown Jr., Ryan Gondillo, Bruno Diacomo, Zachary Taylor, and Kyle Craven will all move on to the second and final round here for qualifying here at Watkins Glen. And everybody from 13th on down, this is where they will be starting for tonight's Cheez-It 355 here at the Watkins Glen International. And you can see here, positions 13th on down to 40th right here. This is all where everybody will be officially lining up for tonight's race. And then obviously you take a look at the caboose. That's Campbell Martian, the 41, who came pretty close to winning at Minnesota earlier, back in September. And then Janiah Hill will be starting from the caboose. But as far as our top 12, they get to move on, and they will be fighting for the pole here for the Cheez-It 355 here at the Watkins Glen International. So stick around. We should be right back in just a few minutes.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite. If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in a hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the final round of WRLA Pepsi Cup Series qualifying from here at the Watkins Glen International. The sun has come back out. And now we're about to figure out who is going to win the poll for the Cheez-It 355 here at the Watkins Glen International. And yet, everybody is still kind of just sitting in the pits. Obviously, you got the first 5, you know, with Lopez, Craven, Moscow, Gundillo, Monaco's is here, Stapleton, Diacomo, Perez. So about all 12 drivers are here, and here comes the first car to make a move. That is Val Moscow. Stapleton and Blaze, they're making their way out on the racetrack as well. And here we go. Moscow makes his way out on the racetrack first, so he's going to start his lap here pretty early. Stapleton and as well as Russell Blaze, they make their way out. But this is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, we had some pretty fast times during the cloudy conditions, but now with the sun back out, the grip level not being as high as it was with the cloud cover, and with track temps being a little bit warmer than what they were, we should see a little bit more of those slick conditions. There's Perez in the 88. Kyle Craven in the 28. Our winner from Minnesota back on the 12th of September. Now as we're coming down to it, Moscow has already started up his lap as Bruno Diacomo is the only one that is still sitting in the pits. Everyone else has already made their way out onto the racetrack. But now it is Val Moscow who is the first car that's going to go ahead and lay down a lap to kick off our final round of qualifying for Watkins Glen. This is to set the start and the rest of the starting lineup, as well as figure out who is going to be starting on the pole. In Moscow, he was fast. He was pretty much the fastest in round 1, so it would be kind of interesting to see if he's able to carry that momentum into the second round. So the time across the stripe, it's going to be a minute 8:01 to start things out. Stapleton and Blaze, they make their way to the start finish line this time by. Stapleton at the top with a minute 7:47, and Russell Blaze with a minute 8:7:64. Clifton with a 9:33 to his time. Perez, Craven with an 8:47, an 8:62 for Braden Perez. But Nathan Stapleton currently at the moment is the fastest car on the racetrack right now, making his way through the S's. Making his way through turn number, well, used to be turn 5. This, I mean, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually going to be a pretty interesting race again, because it's all going to come down to that track position. It's all going to come down to those pit calls and see which ones are going to be the best at maintaining that track position and getting the right calls on pit road. As now Russell Blaze to the top. Now, yeah, Blaze to the top with a minute 8:4.96. As Moscow just briefly held the top of the board with a 6:04. Now he gets kicked back to third as Kyle Craven goes to second with a 5:48. Stapleton gets kicked back to fourth with a 6:20. And there's Zachary Taylor, the other Indiana native, the Indiana driver, with a 6:93. So currently holding on to fifth on the scoring pylon with less than 5 minutes to go here in round 2. Hold the phone here. Where did Eric Monaco just come from? He just went to second on the board with a minute 8:4.99. Tied with Zachary Taylor. So currently, Monaco is ahead by just a few millionths of a second. That's actually kind of impressive that Monaco kind of just comes out of nowhere and almost dethrones the 69 of Russell Blaze for the pole position. Gondolo up to fourth, and Kyle Craven gets kicked back to fifth. Bruno Giacomo jumps up to ninth with a minute 08.612. So after sitting on pit road for somewhat of an extended period of time, we now see the 95 up inside of the top 10. But Blaze right now still holding on to the top of the charts right now. Just by, oh, wait a minute. Zachary Taylor coming out of nowhere with a minute 8:3.55. Dethroning Russell Blaze. Ryan Gundillo moves up to second with a 4.94. 2/1000ths of a second faster than Russell Blaze. So that absolutely shuts out the 69 from starting on the front row, at least for the next 3 minutes. If Blaze is not able to improve his time to at least get a front row starting spot, I mean, inside of the top 5 regardless would still be pretty good to say the least. But if you're Russell Blaze, you're aiming for more. You still want that pole position. And you want that really good track position as well, because track position and strategy calls in the pits are key here at the Watkins Glen. Wayne Lopez coming out of the woodworks with a minute 8:3.16. How about that for Wayne Lopez? Car number 1 currently in position number 1 right now with less than 2 minutes remaining. How about that? So that means Taylor will be kicked back to second. Then it's Monaco, Gundillo, Blaze, Crown, Craven, Moscow, Clifton, Perez, Giacomo, and Stapleton. Well, we know Stapleton is a wrestling fan, so funny enough that the numbers on the other side of the decimal are 619. Kind of funny, if I may say. Coming up on 1 minute to go here in this qualifying session from here at the Watkins Glen International. to set the rest of your starting lineup for race number 18 on the circuit. Currently, Wayne Lopez holding on to the top of the charts right now with now 40 seconds to go. This would actually be pretty impressive because Wayne Lopez, after this year, he is not going to be in WRLA competition. At least in Pepsi Cup Series competition. So it's actually going to be pretty interesting to see what his 2026 plans are going to look like, whether if he's still going to be involved in Pepsi Cup Series racing, whether if he forms his own team or goes and signs on with another team. So that's going to be a pretty interesting sight to see as we come up on 1 minute to go. Should be minute 8, excuse me. So that means these drivers are gonna have enough time to put down one more lap just to make sure it's enough. How about Bruno Diacomo actually coming out of nowhere with a minute 8, 4, 5, 6. Moving him up to third on the standings. I'm telling you guys, Appalachia Motorsports in the late stages of the year, they have just absolutely come alive. So I am very impressed. I'm very impressed with how they've been able to turn things around, especially even if it's not getting themselves into championship contention, they're finishing strong. At least they're going to come out and they're going to finish strong here in this 2025 season. So you got to give them all the credit in the world here, because this is just absolutely spectacular of what they are doing. But as far as what the rest of the starting lineup is going to look like, it's going to see Wayne Lopez starting on the pole here at the Watkins Glen International. He managed to win here in his WRLA debut in the McDonald's Series back in 2017. It would be pretty cool to see if he went to victory lane in the Pepsi Cup Series at the same racetrack he won at 8 years ago. Zachary Taylor is going to line up alongside Bruno Diacomo, and as well as Eric Monaco. They make up the second row. Ryan Gundillo, Russell Blaze will make up row 3. Roberto Crown Jr. and as well as Kyle Craven, they make up row 4. Completing your top 10, there would be Val Moscow and Noah Clifton. Brayden Perez and Nathan Stapleton, they will make up row number 6. So regardless of how they did in this round of qualifying, they still get some pretty good starting positions. So now it's all going to come down to who can maintain that track position towards the front of the field and who has the best strategy calls in the pits. 45 laps of action tonight here at the Watkins Glen International, which you'll be able to catch tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Twitch. One more time, congratulations to car number 1, who's going to be starting in position number 1. I think for the first time this year, we're going to see Wayne Lopez lead the field to the green flag. Then there's Zachary Taylor starting alongside, trying to go for his first win of the season, his second overall of his career. But one more time, congratulations to Wayne Lopez on winning the pole here at Watkins Glen. And we'll see you guys at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch for the Cheez-It 355 at Watkins.